here we are. All right, my name is Nick Bonatakis, software developer, freelancer extraordinaire, and I'm here with Adam Nelson, design freelancer extraordinaire. And
Hello, world.
what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today I think it would be not as relevant as it would have been when we tried to do this first, but we're going to talk about the new Peacock app because it's new and there should probably be some interesting design choices in there to talk about. And millions of people downloaded it on its release 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of relevant,
Sure thing.
right?
Yeah.
We hope to cover some tech stuff. We hope to cover some design stuff. Sorry, we don't get the onboarding because I already downloaded it. But one thing to note right off the bat: cards everywhere. It looks as though they're ripping off the App Store. Let's drift over to the App Store really quick. By the way, we're streaming my phone, so any of the weird shit that comes across is my fault. So as you can see, they pretty much ripped off this design. They did a custom tab bar on theirs, though, at the bottom. Hey, Nick,
Yo.
how come every developer gives me shit about a tab bar like this, like something not out of the box?
Yeah, because it's a pain in the ass to do. I don't even think that's a tab bar, to be honest. I think it's more of a because if you click through around it, like you'll see it like floats, yeah, from one thing to another. I think that's
Well, it's a custom animation on a essentially like it's a tab app. It's a tab
yeah,
bar app.
yeah. I mean, it's a lower navigation. Like I think if you look on like Android, they've kind of blurred the idea of like a segmented control versus a tab bar, where it's like there's a similar control in like material that you see where the indicator floats from one thing to another, but you typically see it like
Uh,
at the top of a screen. But yeah, that thing down there is certainly completely custom. I don't think they're using like UI tab bar controller or anything like that, like the stock stuff.
yeah, they may be doing that up here at the top. Do you see? So now we're browsing, and we can filter at the top by TV shows, movies, etc.
Yeah, so that's the component I was talking about. Like that's
Yeah.
a pretty standard material component where you have like the scrolling kind of segments and then the underline moves along kind of as you tap through different ones or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean to answer your question, it's like yeah, I think uh, I've seen that design a few times. What they have there, well, the thing I see the most commonly that tends to be obnoxious to implement is like this tab bar with the big button in the middle. Although I've found a pretty good way to use the stock tab bar for that nowadays and get it working. But yeah, I mean,
What what do you mean by tab bar with the button in the middle? You suggesting
like any, I've seen this in a tons of
like
apps now.
what I think Instagram used to have it where or it was Path. They had
Yeah,
a button in the center.
Instagram had it for a while. They might still have it where like the middle tab is just like the main action of the app. It's
Yeah, the
post
creation
or
flow or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
So this is pretty interesting. As a designer, it's and probably as an engineer, I would assume this is a little bit annoying. So under browse, they've built this mechanic to help you browse feature, TV shows, movies, etc. We just talked about this. It's more the standard way these are usually used. And let's go over to our profile in the an account. And they have a different tab situation here. Why wouldn't you just use the same one?
Yeah, I don't. This is
You know,
interesting. How did you even get to account? Did you click on?
like the avatar in the upper right.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, my guess is that account is probably just like a totally separate flow in the app, and they probably wanted to keep it totally separate from like all of the actual content stuff. Um,
Yeah,
but I,
maybe, but it's a hyper like this looks like tabs in 2005 on the web used to look.
yeah,
Well, not exactly, but just like bring up that
yeah,
white
actually, that
part
is really
and
strange.
encompass the
It's
maybe it's never going to get beyond
it, it,
payment plans and settings.
it's the
That's
same.
all it'll ever
Well, I
be.
mean, it's the same control. I think it's the same control. I think they've just styled it much differently.
Hmm.
Um, and they didn't
How
have
much did that cost?
how much would
How
that
much?
cost? Uh,
Is this a 3 point story?
yeah, I don't. This screen is not crazy. I mean, I don't. That tab control thing. I'm a huge fan of the material components for iOS, like the library that Google does. where they just have like each material component you can pull it in, and they have a pretty good one that does that because that's straight out of material design.
Yeah.
It's not an iOS convention of it in any way. You'll never see that little control thing in like an iOS app, like a stock
Yeah.
iOS app. But yeah,
How
there's
long
nothing
ago?
crazy on that screen.
How long ago was that cooked and ready to roll, as in like a library? And by the way, did you tweet this out? Yeah, I'm
I
gonna retweet
I
this.
did.
Over here, retweet. Okay. Did you answer? How long ago did they? Did you notice that this stuff was ready to roll and then and you could trust it in the development environments and stuff?
Um, the Google stuff.
Yeah,
They
on iOS devices
Yeah,
specifically.
it's been at least I'd say it's been at least like 3 years, I think, that they've had that stuff because they actually use it on all of their own iOS apps. So like if you open any
Yeah.
iOS app that Google does, they all look like
Mhm.
Android apps. Like they're all material components, and um,
Yep.
so they're using it themselves, which means they tend to keep it pretty up to date, which is handy. I don't tend to use like full on all of their components for most things just because like I don't know. I mean, iOS, like you want to have it looking like an iOS app at least to some extent, but where they're useful,
Yeah.
they're pretty handy. They make sense. So this is actually this screen from a technical standpoint is actually pretty interesting because there's a lot going on like on the AV side of things. I mean, if you so are these things aren't actually these are all just stills as you scroll through, right? They're not actually playing any video until you actually jump
They
in.
are until you tap each. So check it out.
Yeah.
And it's hanging right back there. I love how they don't interrupt you with the audio, even though you're just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Most apps would be throwing video at your audio and video at your face right now, and I kind of don't like that. The swiping is nice, like so that's open right now. I can move it away, but if I swipe abruptly, it puts it away.
Yeah.
So
They've
the controls are pretty cool. Check out the search mechanism down here in the right.
Yeah, I did play with
Um,
the search a little bit. It was a little bit strange. Um,
there's an animation. Okay, so no Alf, but Alfred Hitchcock we do get. Um, little little kludgy. I guess it. Why wouldn't you turn? So yes, we're in search mode. Let's. I don't know. What should I? War. Yeah. Um, why wouldn't you put your X down here? I know you're in an active search, but why wouldn't you change your search button to an X to get out of that?
oh, like
It's
in the lower right, you mean?
yeah. I got to reach
Yeah,
all the way up here to kill that.
maybe, but I feel like it'd be strange to have a search like an X button in the bottom right. It's also weird to have the search in the bottom right, honestly. Like I don't think you
Totally.
don't see that very often. I would have expected it on the top.
The behavior of it isn't even. So I'm in search. There is no X presented now. There's only an X after I start to type. So it's not the type of X that closes a window.
Yeah.
You this is look. This animation kind of explains it. It's part of moving back into the browse section. You see how it goes. Bloop?
Yep. Yep.
That you really should have a sound effect like that. It wouldn't get annoying ever.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. You don't really see sound effects too often in apps anymore. It's kind of unfortunate. I think there are some
There
interesting.
wasn't there like a little pop for the longest time with Twitter
Yeah, yeah, they kind of invented the little
refresh?
pop refresh control thing. I don't know if Tweetbot might still have that actually. This screen, I had some gripes about this screen, honestly. Like if so
This table,
this browse
yeah,
screen, like that huge like um I don't know, whatever banner thing it is right there. It's like it
the,
really it
the
irked
header,
me. Um, like it irked me that it wouldn't go away, you know, because if you scroll on the bottom there, like the scrollable area for this little thing for this screen is like so freaking tiny, especially since you have the um,
there. It's loading properly now.
yeah,
They've got so this. There's a nugget of content that's supposed to appear above it. You see that?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it should. Yeah, we should replace the top content there with this yellow nonsense. And it's just really big. Like this table doesn't have to be off screen. Then again, these ass clowns over at every TV network feel like they need to have their logo there versus versus an actual word or a string.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, like on a iPhone screen size, doesn't matter how big it is, like I still feel like having like a partial screen of like a scrolling table view is just crappy UI because it's like uh, this just doesn't feel like there's enough room to actually like interact with it. Like I'm accidentally tapping on like one of the little segments on the bottom or like in that little banner instead. Um,
Yeah. Well, if you think of the use case, I understand why they kept so on the right column they pin the right excuse me the left column they pin the left column because as you scan what's up next on every channel, you want to know what channel to go to right away. You
right,
know,
right.
like so it's not so the exercise isn't so here's the decisions the user's making. They open this thing, they're like, what is on right now or what is on next, right?
Yep.
And then they scan from there. I wonder. So from channels, this is this is what's on. Let's look at next Saturday Night Live, and it's going to be on at 3 o'clock. No way in hell their search is going to bring up a result around that, right?
Yeah.
Let's click in here. Do they have any inclination that this is live to stream right now? No, it's all historical content.
Yeah, that's a miss.
Could be, yeah.
One other thing that bothered me, I don't know if you noticed this with like, so if you start a video playing back, I don't know how well it's going to actually stream, but like,
Whereabouts? Just any?
just any video, like, there's no, like, you have to manually full screen it, but if you, like, one thing I really like about like the YouTube app, for example, is if you, I mean, I'm very used to this experience because you get it in some of the native iOS apps too. Is like if you turn your device sideways, it will just automatically landscape fill the entire screen with the video.
Yeah,
And they didn't do that here, which kind of sucks. Like I think that's kind of a in my mind almost a table stakes kind of UX thing nowadays. Just
yeah,
because
I would agree.
you see it in so many video apps, and it's not that hard to. You don't get it for free in the system, but it's not that hard to implement it. So I
It's
think
kind of
maybe they
annoying
should.
that it doesn't automatically do it for sure. And I have to dig for the UI element that puts it back.
Yeah.
I wonder if the player being used. So this, it would be good engineering if this. Whoa, we got to check out Katy Perry's pregnancy journey. Um, so I wonder if the player that's being used is the same player as when we dig for a nugget of content. The best of John Belushi.
I'm sure
Hey, it
there.
automatically does it here for this content. It does
Oh,
it.
really? Interesting.
Yeah.
So
So they
why?
built it. They on purpose didn't do it on the
I
browse.
don't
They did
understand
it
that.
in the I'm going to dig and watch screen though.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
And they don't
understand that.
even allow. How far back can we go? What are we just not loading shit? Oh no, it's loading.
Here's another thing I
Marco.
noticed right here that I see break all the time on apps. Do you see how there's a like I wonder if they did or not. So can you swipe to go backwards in the nav stack here? You know, the swipe from the left of the screen.
Um, what am I doing there?
So
What is it
if you
doing?
put your if you just like touch all the way at the left edge of the screen, you should be able to swipe to the right to kind of just navigate
Yes,
backwards.
like that,
Yeah,
right?
did it work?
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, a lot of times what you
that's what
see
we're
is like
experiencing.
if they replace that back button with something other than like the system back button, um, that functionality breaks. But actually, what it looks like they did is I think they just made it an empty title back button. So if you see that chevron is like all the way to the left there, it looks
Yeah.
like they just made the standard one have like an empty text string in it. Um,
Hmm.
but if you just replace that altogether with like a custom thing, it breaks that feature for some reason, and you have to
You
like
you lose that functionality because the assumption is they would leave it if it's a genuine back, leave the back button there. But if
yeah,
they're
I
going
don't
to turn it into a whatever,
yeah, sort of. I bet you it's a dumpster fire accessibility wise. Like I bet you that thing has no idea what button it actually is. And not for nothing, I did go through this app with like accessibility turned on and just like futz around with different things. It's clearly they didn't go through it. A lot of the stuff is unlabeled. The typical thing you see in these media apps that's definitely this one suffers from is like anything where you have like a sort of like a banner or like a thumbnail that doesn't have text part of it. I can't remember which screen it was I was looking at. It's just totally. I mean, like you can't tell what it is. It basically just reads out like image, 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 image.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I mean, this is such a massive audience app that like I would have expected them to at least go through the basics. Yeah, these ones here. So if you had voiceover on and you were trying to pan through each one of these like thumbnails down here, you literally get no feedback about what it actually is. Um,
Huh. That's a huge miss because this is how people are going to browse.
yeah, totally. Others, and there's other minor stuff, buttons mislabeled and that kind of stuff are not labeled at all. But that's kind of the big one that I see, and I see that in media apps like all the time. On here, on iPhone, I see it on Apple TV a lot. It's just a really common paradigm. I even see it in some of Apple's apps where they like haven't actually done the right thing on that, which is really kind of like, I mean, what are you guys doing? It's like you guys are you're the platform. Um,
Yeah. I have an odd observation. Why does my phone think it's 9:41 right now?
so that's probably because Um, there's something with like 941. It's like the exact. It's like the time that I think Apple uses on all of their screenshots all the time. So like when you have,
It is, yeah.
yeah. So when you have, I
Huh.
think it's that they're assuming that. I think the reason they actually built this like QuickTime recording thing is so that you could take app preview videos for App
Oh,
Store marketing
yes.
pages and stuff.
So
So they
when you
want you
go
to,
to the App Store,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think they just assume that people are going to want to have like that standard time or whatever on their
That's interesting.
yeah. That's kind of funny though. That's kind of a cool touch that they did. Um,
Yeah, and well, the battery that it's charging is accurate though. The time is not. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Um,
Curious George.
what else?
Let's
Yeah, I
see,
mean,
do we
what?
have typical features like I want to save this? Yeah, watch list. Let's put it on my watch list. We have to watch this Curious George bullshit. So we get the eyeball check. When we uncheck, we get the plus eyeball. I guess that's an eyeball. That looks like a football to me, but okay. Missed opportunity. So how would I find that? Channels, trending? Where did
Is there like a my? See, there's no like.
up here, I hope. Settings. Do we have it? No.
So where? Yeah,
Maybe it
I
appears.
assume there
Maybe it
would be.
appears at the very top of my scroll. We're getting a lot of lag all of a sudden. So yeah, I checked that I want to watch that again.
But
Yeah, I
you have
don't
no.
know.
There's nowhere where you can go to like manage that whole thing or anything like that.
No, you would think it would appear at the very least in a list view of favorites or curious questions from Curious George.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
unfortunate.
whether or not it's because I'm plugged into this and we're pseudo recording, but everything seems to be getting very, very janky in the app. It's not responding to touches anymore.
Oh, weird. I still see it moving around, but I don't know if it's like the
It's
fence.
just not as fluid as other stuff, and
Huh.
loading is really slow too. This is the
Interesting.
legit screen that I'm seeing too. There we go, finally. Yeah, so I'm adding stuff to my watch list.
But there's nowhere it
But I
actually shows up.
no
It's weird.
on now next. I'm. Where would you put it?
I would want to I would want a tab for that like of just like my like
Yeah,
if you like I use YouTube TV for TV watching and they have like there's just a library tab there where it's just like all the stuff I've marked and whatever. And honestly like
yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't have it on the home like you'd expect that they would
Is
have like
so
a carousel on the home screen too or something, right? Like
is your YouTube? Let me go. When you are a YouTube TV subscriber, are you saying the subscriptions button? Is
um
that
no. I'm talking about
because
YouTube TV like the live TV streaming, totally different app.
yeah? Okay, so they redid it and it's just not the same. Okay.
It's just a different
But
app.
yeah, well, for instance, you can subscribe to channels on YouTube, and they have that. That's your home. They've got.
Exactly.
So that's probably being cooked right now. It didn't make it into the release of the product. It seems really so. From a project manager's perspective, right now you've done nothing but piss me off because I favorited a thing, from Browse. I'm like, now we're going to go favorite Sabrina because the Teenage Witch show. That makes sense. But like, wouldn't you not just pull this button? If the whole feature isn't baked, you're doing nothing but pissing people off, right?
Yeah, or like if it's gonna show up somewhere else dynamically, maybe you tell them like once like
A little
put
bit.
the first time you put a something like a pop up or a toast or something to tell you like or in just put it in line like videos that you favorite or add to your watch list will show up at XYZ or whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
why I don't know why they wouldn't do that unless there legit is nowhere actually shows up right now. Maybe there is there a
Here it
desktop
is.
version for this?
Here, I found it. I found it. Here it is.
Ah,
They have buried it within featured, which is a mistake. It looks like you have an endless ability to add however many of these you want. You should put a empty state with its own tab, and it should be my watch list.
mhm.
But they buried it below. So continue watching SNL, that one thing, and now here it is on watch list. It's its own area here.
Yeah.
But it took us who are in technology for like a decade apiece 2 minutes, 2 fucking minutes to find it.
That's the thing that drives me. Yeah, I mean when that kind of thing happens, that's obnoxious. Uh, like I literally do this for a
It
living,
made
and I
me mad
can't
enough
find
to want to watch this Katy Perry pregnancy journey.
it. Hold on, can you scroll that up a little bit? I want put it behind the nav. Is that a nav bar they have? Oh no, interesting.
You talking about at the top there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Trying to figure out what it's. Oh no, it's just like. Yeah.
Let's see what happens when you do that over scroll thing. For some reason, anytime
Oh.
we were dissecting apps and apps and apps or whatever,
Yeah.
everyone was messing with the scrolls and stuff.
They are. It looks like they are doing some kind of gradient, like fade or blur or something like that. Do you see that? Like as you scroll.
Yeah, it's
up.
definitely not a blur.
It might just
Can you
be
imagine? They would have to like. Isn't live blur a bit of an issue? All right, so
Nah, not anymore.
let's say this. Not anymore. What was
No.
what was the issue back when? So putting a scrim or something over video, live video content, not an issue anymore.
No, no. This is like that stuff is built into the system now, and it's like very performant and easy.
So what if I try to do it on an Android design? What if I was like, hey, you know how they do it over there? Do you ever see it done?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know exactly how to do it on Android or how easy it is right now, but my guess would be that it's not that hard over there either, just because it's something that I think you see.
It's really not a Google app design choice. They never do it.
That's actually you're right about that. It is much more of an iOS thing. I think I'm wrong about that. I definitely you see it in. I mean, it's built into iOS like natively. Like all of the nav bars and tab bars and all that stuff have like a very subtle it's a very heavy obfuscation and blurring or whatever, but it's built into the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in the beginning, actually, I wonder if that segment to control a tab bar thing on the bottom might be doing it. Maybe I can't tell if that's a blur or if it's just transparency.
It is a blur. Yeah.
So they're probably using that same. It's called a UI visual effects view. So it's like they give you
No,
a view that you can just plunk on top of anything, and it'll do the blurring of everything that goes underneath it live.
yeah. I'm going to pick an object off my artboard here. So it's just interesting if the product that, Sketch for UI design stuff, that is a thing that, you can do as well. And I'm just trying to see the verbiage that is used there. So I have the Gaussian blur,
Yeah.
the motion blur,
Is this
background blur.
Is this Apple's kit?
No, this is Sketch. What do you mean by Apple's kit?
Apple has like a Sketch like template or something like that, or like a set of Sketch components that you can like pull into Sketch.
Yeah, I just downloaded that recently. It is just it is so wired heavily tight together. Like everything is a nested this and that. Everything is a symbol with a million symbols in it. Everything is hooked up to like a master library. It used to be like a sticker sheet, or maybe this is back when T Nanon and Lax, remember those guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They would put out super easy ones to use where you wouldn't feel like you were breaking something when you know, just I need a search bar, boom, got it. Whereas in Apple's things, you're like, oh, you want this search bar? You're gonna have to disconnect it from everything under the sun.
Yeah,
And that's not like, I understand why they do that, because they are a huge design organization and they have to take into context all the screen sizes and the same component used all over the ship. But a designer's every day, like, I just need to sell this idea as quickly and design it as quickly as possible. You know,
yeah. I
my design presentation is not going to include the iPad version and then the desktop version of the same experience.
um,
I just need the phone version. You know.
I get what I get what you're saying, because when I futzed around with it at one point, like I think it was like a month or two ago, um, and I was kind of expecting what you were suggesting, like kind of just like here's a sticker, like a sticker sheet for lack of a better term, of all the components and just mix and match. I think what they're going for is like make it easier to like prototype things, because like they have, you pull in like a nav bar and it has like subcomponents for like each bar item and all this crap. And so like if you're trying to just prototype something with stock Apple components, it's and you can learn how all of their components are kind of structured, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. But I don't know, at the end of for like a power designer, or like any designer really, like it's probably, you're probably not going to work, you're probably not going to want to work within their constraints in that way.
Yeah, I think my observation is there's a difference between, and I'm sure it's the same in engineering, production level code, and then a a sales tool.
Right.
You know, like the designs I'm throwing together are to get across concepts that will become code. And uh, you know, at Chewy, we did really, you know, set up our documents, our sketch documents, like it was that thing that Apple puts out, because we needed consistency out of all of our team, and we knew we had to design across all these sizes and shit.
Right.
It was like, and it's honestly one of the reasons I didn't like working at a large organization with a large design team, because it was more about maintenance and bullshit rather than the stuff that I like to lean into. You know, just designing quick and dirty and selling.
Yeah, I think to get a little bit meta, I guess here, it's like I think that's something you see in large organizations, whether it's design or engineering. Like there's an obsession with like defining standards and adhering to them.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time debating the standards and like the merit of the standards, and like honestly, like I think in my I think in my experience, I've learned that I don't think those standards always add a lot of value. And it's because people always just break the standards because, you know, you didn't consider something that you have, something or another that you have to do. And um, I think people convince themselves that like, okay, we're going to solve this problem once and nobody's ever going to have to like think about it again. It's just a
Yeah,
lie.
until that person leaves the organization.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's
And
just,
then a new standard czar comes in and is like, "We're doing tabs,"
yeah.
or whatever. What's
Yeah.
that argument that was on Silicon Valley? Yeah.
um, so I don't know. Getting back to this NBC app, let's talk about it. Let's break it down from like a cost perspective. Let's like, because you know,
Oh,
you gotta love estimating the cost of things, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as Peacock comes in the door at my design agency, I'm thinking in millions, not not thousands. And I shit you not, like I would have two designers on this, and even though like it's super simple and a few screens, you need to impress these people and their expectations. You're going to throw some talent and money at it.
Yeah. 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 I
From
think
a tech perspective, what do you think though?
I think from a tech perspective, this is like, yeah, this definitely multi engineers. I don't know, like it's hard to say like what they have already set up for the back end for this kind of thing. Like I'm assuming they have something pretty robust, but like if you're just talking about the front end, I mean, there's enough here that like this is, we're talking like in the hundreds of thousands, like, you know, 3, 4, 500K, like in that ballpark. This is not like a $50,000 app.
No shit.
You know, just getting the media stuff right alone is, I think, is a big effort, just because people get that wrong so often, and it's really easy to screw up.
Can you define that for us? What do you mean by the
Well,
media
like
stuff?
the video playback and like making sure it's performant and making sure it's a good experience. Like all of the stuff they're doing in this app is custom media playback, so they're not using like at most Apple um, components, like or most Apple frameworks. There's kind of like a hierarchy of like at the top there's like the easiest out of the box kind of thing, right? So
Hmm.
in video land, you have, I think it's AV video player, for example, right? It's like you get a view, you just dump a URL into it, and you get like a nice video player with like transport controls and all that stuff, AirPlay or whatever. Um, so like that's the top level. The next level down is like, it's called the AV player, which is like a so it's like a layer. It's more of like a layer canvas that can play video, but you don't get anything else out of the box, right? So you get video playback attached to like a URL or a file or whatever, but then you have to implement everything else. And I'm sure that's where they landed on this. That's probably what they're using.
Hmm.
And so all the video transport controls and all that functionality that you see is like it's like a custom job. So like I'm sure they had like one or two people just focused on that playback experience, probably for like the duration of this thing. I mean, sure that was probably a huge part of it. Um,
Hmm.
and then the rest of it is like a lot of it. The rest of it's metadata and um, just the front end UX. But all of this, like this first screen here with like the scrolling, where it like there's like the transition into the details and all that stuff. Um, like none of that stuff is stock. Like I mean, this is like
Yeah.
certainly this is just like a scroll view or a collection view or something, but then they have like custom transition to go into the details and all of the like fancy kind of gesture kind of touch control stuff that they have. That's all probably um, interactive transition is what
Yeah.
they call it. And so all that stuff is not uh, it's non-trivial. So I'm sure they spent a ton on that too. Um, so yeah, I think for something that because honestly, like for all of our gripes, I think it's a solid app. Like when I was messing around with it, like it didn't really stutter at all. Like it seemed like a pretty good experience. The stuff we talked about notwithstanding, I don't know. I think they did a pretty decent job with it, especially for like
No,
V1.
I totally agree. I think there's a bar, like when NBC is going to put out a product, they there's a customer expectation there, and they want to get featured. They want the editors to shine a light on them, and they want to make the millions of people who download this app as happy as possible. So they probably never even entertained some of the discussions that a company that we do business with have to talk about, and that's you could get this. Here's the free version of these components, and here's the MVP.
Yeah,
They weren't minimum viable producting this. They were like, how do we have a best? The discussion was around we need to launch with a best of class experience,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It wasn't like get me to market. Those are that's the type of client I deal with 100% of the time now is
yeah,
get
yeah.
me to market and solve my customers' problems, not look ma what I did
Yeah.
type stuff.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely. I mean, you would have seen a lot more standard controls in here if that were the case, and like this would have been a more.
And what you're saying is the savings. Like, can you talk about the time sink that can become these custom animations and stuff?
Yeah, so like you spend a shit ton of time just tweaking that stuff and getting it to work properly, right? Especially when there's video like media involved. Like, what is a video if a video's playing, and like what if the thumbnail hasn't loaded and you want to do some transition or whatever? Like, there's all sorts of weird things that you have to consider. Um, but like I think you could axe a ton of what they did here to bring this down to something manageable, right? Like you'd go through here and try to figure out like this screen actually isn't crazy. I mean, this is just a bunch of embedded like scroll views or collection views or something. I don't know exactly how they did this
Yeah.
screen, but there's nothing super crazy about this screen. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, certainly like the tab bar thing you see at the bottom, you'd get rid of that. You just have a standard tab bar, standard search. Though you'd probably get rid of. You could probably do something decent for like a transition from like um, the videos on the home screen into the actual like video detail screen. Um,
Yeah.
but you could certainly simplify that a decent amount. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to know. I think one interesting thing that we could potentially do going forward is like it'd be fun to like actually try to pull down the app and um, put it in some just try to futz around with it on like the binary side and try to figure out like what sorts of extract like what sorts of tools they might be using and that sort of thing.
How
Um,
would you do that?
oh, there's trickery that you can use to find that kind of stuff out. Some of the
You like
stuff,
reverse engineering it?
yeah, I mean like some of the stuff is just right inside the app package, right? Like there's like certain libraries leave certain clues in terms of like there's like resource files and that kind of stuff that they might use. But there are other ways to actually like decompile the binary itself and um,
Hmm.
try to figure that
Is
stuff
that how
out.
people are deciding that TikTok is like Chinese malware or whatever?
TikTok, so that's actually a little bit easier to figure that kind of stuff out. So you can use, if you remember, in like the Raise days, we all the developers we'd all use Charles Proxy. Hook it up to Charles. Um,
I have no idea what that is.
so Charles Proxy
I
is
wasn't
like
listening during that part.
yeah, yeah. So Charles Proxy is like it's an internet proxy. It's a web traffic proxy that you can hook up. So you run the program on your computer, and then you can hook up like an app. You can configure your phone to talk to the proxy instead of the open internet. And there's other things you have to do to trick it into talking. So like if the app is using like SSL, you have to like go jump through a few hoops to get it to trick the app into actually sending the traffic through in the so you can see it. But long story short, you can see all the traffic that an app is sending to various websites. So whenever you see like stories about like, oh, this app is like sending your personal data to XYZ or whatever, that's like more or less just like somebody could probably looked at it with a proxy and saw that they were sending, that's what they were doing. Because I mean, if they're sending data somewhere, it's going to be in a web call, like so you'll see it. Um,
Okay.
so that's I think for that TikTok teardown thing, I think they did a little bit more in depth than that, but that's like the top level. That's pretty easy to do, and you see that fairly regularly with that sort of thing. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what this one's doing, right? Like, I don't know, like I'm sure they're talking to some like NBC servers or whatever. They have some content management system that they're using,
Hmm.
and then the videos are
Yeah,
probably all
yeah. Well,
just coming from
they
like
definitely they're gonna have to have like what is when I hear the word backend, like that means one thing, but there's also this app probably has an admin
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah,
pairing that drives all of this. It can't all be automatic, right?
yeah.
Like
NBC,
somebody put Al
yeah,
Roker here.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, NBC they have programming on-demand programming like they've had it for decades, right? Like since they've had a
Oh yeah,
website with video on it. So I'm sure they have some giant CMS system that they use to do all this, and they probably just modified it to do expose the right things for this app, and then all the videos I'm sure are the videos
yeah.
themselves are probably being hosted on like Akamai or some other CMS or whatever. Um, it's probably
Mhm.
Akamai. Um, so yeah, that'd be cool to look at the web content or the web flow and see like what they're actually doing. But um,
But the what about the live streaming piece of that? That's got to be different technology because it's not just hanging out on a server, is it?
so the live streaming component of it, like there's different ways to do live streaming. So the most common way you'll see on iOS is like iOS's like standard video streaming is this thing called HLS. It's basically it's like a segmented video delivery. So they initially created it to make it so that a mobile device could more easily consume a video stream. Um, and that format supports on demand and live. So they're probably whatever CMS they're using probably just has like some configuration to output like a live stream, and then they're just feeding it with whatever thing they're doing. Um, it's
Hmm.
probably not super out of the box, would be my guess. Like there are companies that I think do um, different things to do live streaming. Like I don't know if Google's using like HLS or if they're doing some other like more proprietary thing. Be interesting to look into. But I bet you NBC is doing something fairly standard for that. Um, So the player probably doesn't even need to change. Honestly, it's probably consuming the same exact type of like video feed.
Mhm.
Um, what's this
So
review?
I just went over to the App Store to see how, how it's been represented here. It got an
Yeah.
editor's pick, which is cool. It's trending number 8 in entertainment. Yet we're looking at a 3-star rating from the consumers
Interesting. I wonder what
because
people are
people
complaining
suck.
about.
Go. It's gonna be the model, the freemiumness of it. I don't know. You wanna make some speculations, and then we'll do some reading.
I bet you it's partially that. It's probably some like the show I was looking for is not on here. But I bet you most 1-star reviews are like, I don't want to pay for this thing.
Yeah, I know. It's like fuck you.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to make a bumper sticker. Normalize paying for good software. That's all it says.
As somebody who's like sold like $1, $2 apps, like you would be amazed at the vigor, like coming for like just the vitriol from people to pay for a $1 like in-app purchase.
Yeah,
It's like you.
I've dropped $1 before and been too lazy to pick it up. I'm just kidding. This app is buggy, like a roach motel. Sure hope they are fixing. Can't even contact them to let them know. So here I am. So here I go on this platform. The progress bar is messed up, all caps, beyond belief, and it doesn't keep track of your place at all. Well, we didn't really get into the actual experience of watching something that much. This person did, and they ranted.
Here's a good thing to call out. Do any of these reviews have responses? So like.
That's what Apple allows that now.
Yes,
like, you can get in here and be like, "Hey, shut up," or "I fixed it."
Well, yeah, this is a common thing I see with big companies. For whatever reason, like they don't spend the effort to do this, but it's like just hire an intern or something to go in there, like, even if they can't tell you.
It's actually pretty high risk to hire an intern to trust an intern to respond to this kind of stuff. So Chewy does a great job with this. I'm going to plug Chewy for a little while. By the way, I used to work at Chewy as associate design director. Here we are. Our customer service, like it was a core competency of the company. Customer service there was top notch.
Yep.
If you call Chewy on the phone, a human being will answer 24/7 under 5 seconds, and they speak English. So here's an example of a developer response on an app, and we had a team of our customer service folks tasked with answering within 24 hours when we got a complaint.
Yeah, and that's the right thing to. And so, like, let me be clear. I think that for a huge company like NBC, the value proposition for like, because usually when you respond to somebody that's given you a lousy review, like a lot of times that'll just cause them to change their review right there, even if you haven't fixed anything for them, right? Because like people like to get acknowledged. Exactly. So like even if it's so like in my mind the lowest bar is like just have somebody go in there and say we've seen your comment and we're working on addressing it. That's like. That's the easiest thing to do. But honestly, like for a company like that, they have the money to hire somebody to go in there and do a better job actually, responding with something substantial. I mean, to have no responses at all, I think it's just a miss.
Yeah.
But
what the hell is HBO Max? No, just kidding. I don't want to talk about that.
Max versus Go versus now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears and talk about this Peacock app. Peacock sounds 1 through 5. You can find anything on the App Store. 35 ratings as well. 4.4 stars.
Wow.
Why anyone would ever need this, I do not know.
So going back to the NBC thing, how are they? Where are they up? Are they up? They're not upselling in the app right now, right? You have to actually go to the website.
Yeah, you got to dig, but you can find it.
So it is in the app. Like I don't curious like if they're playing nice with Apple in terms of the upsell rules and all that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it was under here. There was a little like premium content badge on one of these. There it is. See that little feather?
Yeah.
Naturally. Feather, because Peacock.
It's a peacock.
Watch with premium.
And then can you
unlock everything.
can you upgrade in the app, or where do you have? Does it drive you out of the app?
Drives me to this page, so they only had to build it once. Nice. Yeah. Right here, everything's good to go.
Oh, and there you are. This is an IAP. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they're just playing ball, which is probably smart.
Surprising.
Um,
Well, that's how they got the editors.
yeah.
Fancy nod. Oh, this looks fun.
Well, I wonder. I mean, who knows? They might actually have like a sweetheart deal with Apple. Actually, one of the interesting things about those hearings that happened last week is I think there were some like internal documents that surfaced from Apple that like showed that they basically they make special arrangements with some companies, which is not super surprising, where they like renegotiate the terms of the revenue share and all that crap. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going on here, where they're paying 15% instead of 30% or whatever.
Yeah.
I gotta check to see if this is on the Apple TV. I'm assuming it is. I should check it out and see what it's like on there.
The first day this came out, it was not available on the Fire Stick. Isn't that Amazon's product?
Yeah, that's Amazon.
But then again, I was checking like the date at 12 a.m. I was like, I have to watch this 30 Rock thing. I stayed up all night. But I couldn't find it. It wasn't even. So the disappointing part was they released the app, but this is a miss in my opinion. They advertised with the 30 Rock thing in conjunction with the Peacock release, with this app and everything, and then that specific nugget of content wasn't available until the day after.
That's lame.
So it was like, hey everyone, we're gonna set you up for a big disappointment.
At least they were running, right? Like that was the big thing with Disney Plus, was like it was just down for like a day when it came when it first. Like,
oh yeah, because of all the crazy traffic that they saw, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They didn't anticipate. I mean, come on, Mandalorian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was weird.
All right. Well, do we have any parting thoughts on NBC Peacock or anything else?
Let's try to put a price tag on it, Nick.
I don't know. You think it's $1 million app? I don't know.
I wonder who did it and how much they paid. I'm genuinely curious.
They may have an in-house team.
And if they sold a maintenance contract on top of it, or are they doing this in-house?
They may have an in-house team. I don't know. Like I know, I'm like pretty sure that like Disney, for example, all that whole thing was in-house. But
they do a great job anyway. Like they understand technology.
Yeah, they've made, that was kind of one of that was part of Iger, was like they've really, part of their thing was pivot from being like a media company to being more of a tech company.
Part of what?
Their Iger had made it like part of his whole like philosophy was like, we need to become more of a tech company as opposed to just like a media company. This is Disney, and so I don't. NBC probably hasn't really embraced that as much, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had an in-house team. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you can. So if you had an in-house team, let's go ahead and price that out. How many people to maintain? How many and how many developers?
I think this is at least like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they had at least like 3, 4, 5 mobile developers just on this thing to keep it running. I mean, it's just, I'm sure there's all sorts of.
That's instantly $500,000 a year right there to maintain.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably so many crevices to this thing that you don't even see. That's the other thing, right? Like crap that pops up here and there for whatever reason. Usually what you see is only a small fraction of what the app has to do, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and we didn't even open this on any other devices or like put it through the paces, like the internet connection or all the things that you have to solve for.
Yeah.
Behind it's the dirty work.
Yeah, exactly. So, All right. Well,
I think
go ahead.
I think a lot of people in the startup world are mistaken when they feel like I'm going to set it and forget it. Like I have an app idea or I have a whatever, and they pay a team, $200K to get something to market in 3 months, and then they're like, okay, now I have this, and in fact, all they have is a ticking time bomb for when Apple changes something for them under the rug, and
Yeah.
like they need to maintain the thing. It's like you can't just be like, this is buying software isn't a one and done thing.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
a huge relationship you're getting into, actually.
Yeah, and this thing, I mean, we're gonna have iOS 14 in like a few months now, so I'm sure they're already working on whatever things shake out of that in terms of what they need to change on here and what's broken and all that. And honestly, like the less standard you go,
The more shit you have
shit
to
ends up
custom
breaking.
rewrite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great argument for keeping it simple and
Yeah.
sticking with the components as they are.
Yeah, totally. Cool.
Okay, I have another call to get on, believe it or not.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
Let's plan to do it same time, same place next week, and maybe next time we'll do a better job promoting it, and we'll come up with something a little bit earlier, so we can start plugging it earlier on in the week.
Yeah, that's we might want to get some fodder and some content from the community if we ask folks. So any listeners, be ready for your subject to be tackled, and maybe you can call in too.
Yeah,
maybe we can figure that part out. Maybe
just keep throwing more tech challenges at me on this damn thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right,
Nick.
Have a good one,
Great
Adam.
stuff.
Yeah.
We'll do. How do we? Oh no, I actually.